Do you like fighters or spacecraft design? Grab your copy of the first Spacedock reference book all about these topics on our Patreon through the link in the description and pinned comment below. Hello everybody, and welcome back to Spacedock. I'm Hujuana, and today I'm following up on the video on boarding actions from January, where a whole bunch of you were definitely interested in hearing my top 5. So here we are. First up in the number 5 spot is an extremely risky little maneuver the crew of the Rocinante pulled to capture the Azure Dragon in the last season of The Expanse. There are a ton of boarding actions across the show, but sometimes they were just background events like with the Donnager, but this particular one is special because of the circumstances that surrounded it. The Roci crew were forced to sneak up on the Dragon and attempt to capture it to stop them from wiping extremely valuable data from their drives. But of course things didn't quite go to plan and they were noticed, forcing an extremely dangerous chase where the Roci couldn't disable the Dragon with its armament, but the Dragon could absolutely torch the Roci. This is fantastic and really shows how incredibly dangerous spacecraft are, even when unarmed. Then there's that terrifying leap that Bobby makes over to the Dragon before stopping it with an EMP. What if the Dragon had turned at that very moment? She could have been crushed like a bug on a windscreen, or vaporized by the drive. Even after that, she nearly got obliterated by whatever that heavy weapon was, showing another massive risk the entire Roci gang took with this boarding operation. Anything could have gone wrong, and it's lucky that no one was really injured, and they managed to get the data they needed. The number 4 spot goes to the War Rocket Ajax battle in Flash Gordon, which I had forgotten about until seeing it in the comments. You there, yes you have fantastic taste. This whole thing is an amazing battle where Flash and the Hawkmen need to capture the rocket in order to attack Mingo City to stop Earth from being destroyed by merciless Ming. As they would be totally outmatched in an open fight, they instead lead it into a trap, with Flash acting as bait to draw it away from the guns of the city and up through a dense cloud layer. That is when the Hawkmen attack, diving on the ship at short range. The apparent arrogance of the rocket's commanding officer causes him to just stop there and try to fend off the boarders, since he just doesn't recognize the danger his vessel is truly in. The fight itself mainly occurs on the exterior of the ship, with Ming's troops firing from portholes, and the main objective of the Hawkmen being to force entry with a small, remotely detonated mine. Once that is done, they swarm inside the stricken ship, taking out any remaining defences and capturing it to use against the city's lightning field. This whole thing is just a fantastic boarding sequence because of 3 reasons. It shows the huge advantage that surprise can bring to an otherwise unwinnable fight, it has that incredible soundtrack from Queen, and Brian Blessed looks like he's having the absolute time of his life. What is not to love here? My third favourite boarding action is from Mass Effect 3's Citadel, where you have to take back the Normandy from a group of Cat 6 mercenaries. What makes it interesting is that you are boarding your own ship that you've spent 2 games living in, and there's a nice little twist on what boarding actions usually involve. First, you have to battle your way through the docking bay, which is insanely detailed compared to similar spaces in Mass Effect 1. I talked more about this in the ship scales video, so go check that one out if you didn't already. And subscribe now for a future video on ship sizes and why giant spacecraft are a bit silly. But back to the Citadel, where once you get to the ship, the inner airlock door is locked. The only way in is a hatch in the floor that is hilariously opened with Traynor's toothbrush, mentioned way back at the start of the game. Shep and co sneak aboard and get into combat in what was previously an entirely non-combat safe zone. Not even in 2, when the collectors got aboard, was the Normandy interior a full gameplay area. This makes the whole event an absolute novelty and perfectly fits the vibe of this set of missions. Then you go down to the cargo bay, which is, for once, full of cargo, and take on one of the more challenging combat encounters of the entire franchise. Overall, this mission does things that nothing else in the franchise did before, and sticks the landing perfectly between novelty, action, challenge, humour and drama. This is a massively complicated mix of tones, and it could have gone so wrong in so many ways, but they nailed it. The only disconnect is the way they handled Edie, who really should have prevented the Cat 6 guys from gaining a hold of the ship at all. Yeah, sure, she got disabled in a way that was a bit contrived, given that she is right there in the group with her remote-controlled mech body, but it's a required contrivance for the awesome set pieces that followed. In second place is the second playable level of the second Halo game, the defense of Cairo Station. Now, there are a lot of boarding actions through the Halo franchise, and it even started with one, but that first mission in Halo CE was a cramped maze of boring sci-fi corridors blasting away at enemies at point-blank range, and isn't very good. In great contrast, the opening of Halo 2 takes a similar concept and just amps it right up to 11. The station itself is a little more open and it has great big windows everywhere, letting you see the battle going on outside, but more importantly the incoming boarding ships. You even get to see exactly how the Tick class craft attach themselves and bore through into the station before disgorging their cargo. As you fight through those Covenant troops, you come across improvised defences and can listen to the audio announcements declaring new places that have been attacked. And there's updates on the battle at large going on outside, which you also get to see key moments of, such as the other Mac stations getting blown up by their own boarders. And this plan by the Covenant is a really good way of attacking Earth. They take out the defensive weapon emplacements with a surprise attack by boarders on smaller craft before bringing in the capital ships. But things go a little differently on Cairo, as it has both Master Chief and Cortana aboard, who fires up the Mac and begins to engage cruisers as you progress through the station. And thanks to those windows, and even going outside, you get to watch the immense weapon going through its firing cycle. And of course, it ends with that cutscene where Chief takes out 2.7 billion tons of assault carrier. Just a fantastic level to play through and a brilliant boarding action, especially because you were on the receiving end of it. Before I talk about my favourite boarding action, the first honourable mention is Astartes. You all in the comments adore it, and it is an exceptional piece of filmmaking, but there's not all that much going on that makes it special in regards to boarding. The only boarding-y bit was the flight between the two ships. Everything else could have happened on a planet, or in a hive city, or in a giant underground moonbase, whatever. The boarding action was only a tiny part of the whole, and there was nothing else going on with it, unlike the second honourable mention, Severed Dreams from Babylon 5. This is yet another one that was very popular in the comments, but it's really only a very tiny little side note in the tumultuous events of that exceedingly great episode. The boarding action itself turned into a horrible, brutal slaughter thanks to the Narn rushing in beyond where Garibaldi wanted to set up a choke point, and descends further into an outright hand-to-hand battle. And for what? The backup the boarders were desperately counting on was forced to turn back, leaving them high and dry. So while it is only a minor part of the battle, it hammers home just how utterly ridiculous the whole bloody affair was, and how badly things can go wrong for the attacking side. Taking the top spot is of course Battlestar Galactica, but which one? The prison ship? The Guardian base star? The final battle? While those are all good, the best is at the start of Season 2, after a brief battle where Galactica needed to compute some FTL coordinates. This took time, which allowed the Cylons to infect the ship with a virus and to get a heavy raider to make a landing. As this craft was entirely new to the Colonials, they did not recognise the danger it truly posed, and it wasn't until after the virus started causing havoc by shutting down main power that the true horror of what was happening set in. They had been boarded by Centurions, which are terrifying in a small space. They are huge, fast, deadly, and extremely hard to kill. In fact, they were near totally bulletproof, with only specialised explosive ammo able to take them out. All this was happening in darkness, with sounds of distant gunfire and pained screaming echoing through the ship. And then there's the goal of the Centurions, to reach Galactica's secondary control systems in order to vent the atmosphere, allowing them to turn its deadly weapons upon the civilian fleet surrounding it. To make stopping them more difficult for Galactica's crew, the Centurions also cut holes in the hull in key locations, exposing those areas to vacuum and cutting off access routes. All this makes the events of the episode absolutely gripping, and my favourite boarding action. It's tense, scary, and it's built around taking place inside a spacecraft, fighting incredibly capable adversaries using every advantage they have. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more. If you want to support us further, you can join Patreon, where you can also get our Spacefighter design reference book, or stay right here on YouTube by giving us super thanks or by becoming a channel member. Thank you to everyone who supports us already, and I'll see you next time.